Welcome, Dr. James Beckett, Sports Card Insights, plural. Another 10 listener questions. Fifth time I've done it, so I've put 5.0 on eclectic topics, just accumulating from the website, from emails, from people coming up at shows, YouTube, any place where people. I'm trying to be accessible. I like to publish answers if it's questions that I think would be of interest more than just the one person. First question from Larry Gitlin. He's mentioning my friend Terry, sales dilemma, slightly older than me, and think of how he can move some of his cards to not be a burden for his family. He's already sold a bunch of stuff. But Larry is saying the same thing. He had a large comic collection. He sold that. He said just before moving to Nova. Is that Villanova, Nova Scotia, or Northern Virginia? Larry, I'm not sure. It possibly is Northern Virginia, which would be a great place. Nova Scotia, you're going to have a little more trouble. Villanova is in Philadelphia. Anyway, he's saying that when he sold his collection, he could have gotten more, but he wanted to move the whole thing. He was willing to take not a huge haircut, but if you sell in bulk, the benefit is you get all of it. And if they know that there's some good stuff in there, you'll still get a decent price. But your maximum price is by selling individually, and that takes a lot of time. One of the reasons he sold the comic books is because he was more into sports cards and other sports kind of stuff. So he's thinking about it. And I've done some other episodes like this, but he said he's put an addendum on his will, letting his son know where the best price, not just the price for the collection, although it's nice to let your heir know the ballpark price so they would take it seriously, and then to give names of some dealers or strategies for how that could be transacted. And generally, I think heirs are going to want to do it quicker, not slower. If it's not their thing, they shouldn't be trying to squeeze the last dollar. I had the son-in-law of a close friend came in with a bunch of cards, and he said, it's almost a complete set. What if I complete the set? I said, if you're not a collector, and this is an older set, you're either going to get bitten by the bug. It's going to take a lot of time. The cards you're missing are some of the tougher ones. I said, so you maybe ought to just sell all of them, but you might want to grade a few just so people get an idea that the better cards are authenticated and they're not 10s, but they're vintage cards, and there's some 7s, possibly some 8s. Okay, this from TK something. It said, didn't Upper Deck backdoor the 1989 Griffey and the Dale Murphy reverse negative? I don't think Upper Deck has been accused of the reverse negative. That may have been an early detected problem. But they have been accused of the 89 Griffey, and that may or may not be true. Did they go back to press? That's possible, which is still legal. If you go back to press during that year, I don't have a big problem with that. I don't like it, but it's not illegal if they paid royalties on that. Again, if they did print a sheet of just Griffey's, Ken Griffey should have a problem, and the Players Association should have a problem with that, depending on how it was sold. But I've heard those rumors, and I do not believe them. I just think Upper Deck printed an awful lot of cards, and Griffey was not thrown away. Griffey was very quickly the card. Okay, from Stuke 1976, sorry to hear about your mom. He appreciates his mom, even though his mom's been gone for 9 years, and he got his cards, and she's the one who told him, not only did she not throw them away, she told him to take your cards. So she wouldn't throw them away. He said, I think I was one of the only college students that had a big box full of baseball cards in my dorm room, and that she came to a lot of the shows that he did in his area. Here's to great moms. Okay. From TJ is online. It says, thanks for posting this strategy on the video. This was only on video when I did what I call the ordinal break for the 2023 select football hockey box. And what I did, I postulated what if 3 or 4 guys or 1 or 2 guys got together and said, hey, let's split the box, but let's not split it even or every other card. Let's split it in that I want to pay more than you, and I want to get the very best card, and you can have all the rest. Or I want the best, and somebody else says, well, I want the second best card. And so I think I've caused some people to think about that. No matter how you do the math, it just seems the best card is the lottery aspect. The residual is the collector aspect. Nice to know that somebody was paying attention to that. Another comment about taking a grandson, so it's somebody about my age, to the Fanatics Fest, that his strategy would be the kid would want to go to the Fanatics Fest, and you'd spend a little bit of time at the card show portion, which was in the back, and maybe get him a box of something and then do the activations and things like that. Then he said if he was in the area, he'd go to the East Coast National the next day by himself. You can't take a kid who's not already a collector to a card show and expect them to spend the whole day there looking at cards. That it might work. That means they'd really get bitten by the bug. But chances are they're going to, after about an hour or two, they're going to say, hey, can we go home or do something different now? So if they're already a collector, you can take them to anything and they can have their own thing. But they need to have their own independent interests for a player, for a set, for a sport. I mentioned on Hobby Hotline, I just think it's tricky to go with your son or daughter or your grandson or granddaughter because it's a very long day. And what you're interested in is not what they're. So like I said, it's like going to Disneyland. And if you go to Disneyland with somebody of that age, you're going to ride the rides they want to ride. They're not going to watch you riding by yourself. You're going to either ride with them or you're going to watch them riding the rides they want to ride and standing in the lines. Okay. Next from Autograph 415, he's calling me out and I deserve it. This is another one of the videos. He said, for a guy dropping a hefty amount on the Deca box, you don't seem to really care. No, it's not that I don't care. It's that I don't show a lot of emotions when I'm going through a dollar box or opening a box. Even when I pulled that Jordan Auto, I didn't do any backflips. I think that's great. I do care. In fact, unfortunately, I care about all cards. And I have analytical curiosity of what I'm going to get. And so I'm doing that. And Autograph 415, I did not drop a hefty amount. In fact, I don't even know what amount was dropped because I got it straight from Panini as part of my podcast sponsorship. I get occasional boxes from them. So I didn't drop a hefty amount. It's an expensive box. I'm not denying that. But I did note that I believe it was in the Dutch auction format. And they have to set as a floor on the Dutch auction because you'll start it up high and you'll buy it until they run out. But their floor was $500. So I'm sure that it's worth more than $500, but people are willing to pay more. So I want to apologize to my listeners or viewers, and I want to apologize to Panini, Topps, Upper Deck, all the card companies. I do not want to appear blasé. I think it's fabulous. We absolutely have to have exciting new products coming out. The price of them is high enough. You better be excited. And I probably was more excited than I showed. But that's just me. So no offense. And I appreciate your being willing to say that. Okay. This is ACD 1994. He was responding to my episode with Greg Miller, Midlife Sports Cards. Really enjoyed that. He liked giving the question to me about not animosity, but modern and vintage, how that breaks and how people can have a negative view about one or the other. And I hope they don't, as he is saying, and I think Greg agrees and I agree, they both hopefully are going to thrive in their own way. You're not going to 10X the hobby by vintage baseball or vintage football or vintage basketball. The hobby is going to 10X based on modern cards being more and more popular. And that will also raise the interest and demand for older cards. So, like I said, if everybody was interested in vintage, I promise you the price would go way up, and that would not make vintage collectors happy. It might make vintage investors happy, but the hobby, the primary audience to me for this hobby are collectors, not investors. Investors come and go. And then finally, he heard me say there'd be no cards in my coffin. So he says he's glad nobody will be trying to dig up my grave. Yeah, laugh out loud indeed. So nobody better be digging up my grave. In fact, newsflash, I'm going to be cremated. And so no cards will be cremated either. So again, that's a controversial topic, but so much for that. Okay, another question from Mike. Remember being a kid, and 1 month I bought Tuff Stuff instead of buying the Beckett magazines, because instead of buying 4 magazines, I could buy 1. He's asking, how did our company view Tuff Stuff? He said he preferred Beckett, but he got Tuff Stuff occasionally, and it's not going to hurt my feelings. There were other competitors. Tuff Stuff was a very interesting competitor. He said, did Tuff Stuff compete for ad revenue? Did we try to buy them out or vice versa? No, Tuff Stuff really wasn't even that much of a competitor for ad revenue. They took ads that we didn't take. We didn't take cards for sale ads. We took image ads and card company ads, and we really had a pretty strong situation there. So we were, I think, the preferred place for advertising, but we didn't accept the ads. They took it. In fact, they were more of an ad-driven publication. The price guides, we were at a disadvantage because they could put all of them in one magazine. That appeared to be good value, but they could never be anything close to as timely as we were putting out a different magazine for just the specific sport each week, and then supporting it with outstanding photography and editorial and all that. But I was friends with Ernie White, and then the Weather Channel bought him out, and then Krause, I don't remember so they went through some different ownership changes, but through it all, we were friendly competitors. And when people were talking about Tuff Stuff, I didn't have any problem with that. I think it was a different value proposition, and we were friendly with them. Again, I really tried to be friendly with Krause when they were doing the Baseball Cards magazine. Each one had a different niche. I never tried to buy Tuff Stuff, and they certainly didn't try to buy us. Okay, this from Brendan, who is Kyle's brother, the one that used to live in Philadelphia, and they were going to go to the show together. If you remember that, he was mentioning that didn't happen, but he's now moving to Colorado. He says, okay, in 20 years, what are we going to look back on and feel the same way about as we do PMGs and other kinds of star rubies, essential credentials, some of the kind of the golden age of inserts, let's say, in the late 90s? Brendan, I don't know. He's thinking it's going to be black finite, one of ones, and gold and green kabooms. I'm not so sure. It depends on the age. People try to connect with their childhood, what they remember. And so in 20 years, I'm sure they'll be interested in that, but there may be something new that we're not aware of. Then lastly, from Brenton, talking about digital display frames that incorporate card art and how that would be kind of digital way to do what I was talking about a long time ago about card leasing. In other words, if you could have fractional ownership of card, you had rights to have it every January, and then you'd send it to the February person. He's thinking that actually may happen at some point in time. I think there's a lot of friction with the physical card and insuring it and getting it from venue to venue, location to location. But museums do that. They have traveling exhibits, and then it'd be on loan. There may be some financial arrangements there. But if I were to have 1 month of a Hannes Wagner to be on my mantle, my wife may even let me put it in my main house if it's a Hannes Wagner T206. But again, that's not going to happen. But if it did, would I pay something to have it there to show my friends? Again, it'd have to be fully insured, and the insurance would be possibly prohibitive, because it's not included in your homeowner's insurance. So I don't think physical leasing probably, I talked about it with my friends at my old company as an idea I had, because I'm always coming up with these ideas. And I think that the friction, the insurance, all that makes it difficult. The vault is not that, but it's a place other than your home where could they give tours of a vault, or could you be pictured go in the vault and get a selfie with the card or something like that, like at the National? But a digital framing thing, I could see that happening. We've got a digital revolving frame that takes the pictures from grandkids and rotates them. It's there when you wake up in the morning, and it shuts down when you go to bed. And if I had one for cards, I wouldn't bump that. I'm not going to replace my grandkids with cards. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying if I'm back in the office here and I had a frame and it showed greatest hits of the best cards, the top 100 cards, that'd be fun. Again, not as important as kids or grandkids, but it's like art. Okay, so that's it. And thanks for the questions. Keep them coming, and I will try to respond as best I can. I'm still not running out. Appreciate your faithfulness, and continue enjoying collecting as I am.